This cake story is a follower-submitted cake story and is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Selling My Wife's Family Cake Recipe Behind Her Back? No. The Bush's baked beans family would never stand for this. Let me start by saying I love my wife. I'm not one of those assholes who you see way too often on Reddit and TikTok disregarding the things that are important to their wives. Not in my situation. My wife is an amazing chef and an even better baker. She comes from a long line of incredibly talented cooks, and I hit the jackpot by marrying her. She's my Gordon Ramsay, cursing and all. Every year on my birthday, I get an absolutely incredible homemade cake. Every Thanksgiving, I get an amazing pie. Every Christmas, we get a whole table of the greatest foods imaginable from her and her family. However, my most recent birthday, which was about a month ago, my wife and I decided to have some of our friends over for my birthday. She made a cake for me, as usual, and everyone loved it. It was to die for, they said. My buddy and his wife begged my wife to share the recipe, but she refused. My wife has never even told me the recipe. I've wanted it and I've asked for it myself, but she refuses me every time. She is the Mr. Krabs to my plankton, and that damn cake recipe is the secret formula. Well, a couple of weeks after the party, I ended up finding the recipe book she uses. It was her grandmother's, and snapped a couple of pictures of the recipe so I could put it together. I called up one of my buddies and his wife, who had really wanted to know the recipe and even offered to pay us for it. Money isn't always easy to come by, and the holidays are expensive, as most of you know, so I thought a little extra cash wouldn't hurt, and my wife would never find out anyways. Well, I sold them the recipe for a little over $100. My buddy said he'd keep quiet about it. I felt content and a little naughty, like a giddy child who had stolen from the cookie bin. That lasted about 20 minutes. My wife came into our bedroom berating me for betraying her and her family's recipe, something which has been secretive to only her family for generations. I apologized, and I'm still apologizing, but she hasn't forgiven me. While I recognize that this is important to her, it's truly just a recipe. This doesn't take it away from her, it is merely sharing. Not only that, but the extra cash for sharing a simple recipe is a good deal if you ask me, but not my wife. She looks at me like I'm the prisoner of Azkaban now. I'm beginning to fear I myself may never taste that cake again. So I ask you, Mr. Thunder, am I truly an ass bag for this one? If I am, how can I make this up to her? It's cold in the doghouse. Thanks. How did she find out so fast? It's not the most important question to ask here, but you didn't tell us how she found out. That lasted about 20 minutes. My wife came into her bedroom berating me for betraying her. So either, how did she find out that quick? Did somebody rat you out, or did the person you sold this recipe to post it on Facebook or something? Because that shouldn't have been part of the deal. This is one of those situations where you knew that a boundary existed and you crossed it. You knew that this was a hard boundary for your wife. This was an absolutely under no circumstances. You knew that this boundary was there. You knew that it was a hard no, and you still went ahead and did it anyway. I mean, you directly deceived your wife here. And unless you refund their $100 and have them delete that from their device and hope that they have not done anything else with it, I don't think there's a coming back from this. You've now broken trust with your wife. And if this was that big of a deal to her and her family, you may end up being shunned here. You have put all of those tasty things that you've been enjoying this whole time at risk. You've done fudged up pretty bad. Symbolically, this was a very, very, very important thing for her, and you gave zero shits. Sold it for $100. That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad. Man, I can't imagine this being a thing. My grandmother, who has since passed, we called her Mao, her name was Barbara, had a noodle recipe for Thanksgiving or for holidays. But these noodles were freaking magical. And my older sister, Bree, maybe, she now makes the noodles, and we couldn't make it to her Thanksgiving this year because we were down in Diamond with Candy Thunder's family. But I had to request. I'm like, please save some noodles for me because there's nothing like them. Just nothing like them. It is. It's a big deal, man. You have a lot to make up for. The fact that you knew it was a big deal and you did it anyway, sold it, and then you got busted for it. I don't know how you come back from this one. You are truly an ass bag for doing this because you knew she had strong feelings about it. She feels like you don't respect her now, and she feels like the things that she thinks important you don't respect. and now she can't trust you. So it's going to take a long time to come back from this. I would try to reach out to those friends and say, hey, I screwed up. Here's your refund. Please delete that from your device and just please respect this. My marriage is about to end over it. So, I'm throwing you up to ask on one because it was a stupid thing to do. I'm going to brozo you as well. I don't think you're evil for doing this. I think it's a brozo ask on one, which is more of an idiotic kind of thing. It's an idiotic kind of thing. He stole a recipe. Some people had just showed up, but it's a recipe that his wife held secret and wouldn't even share with him. It was a family recipe. She guarded it very, very closely, and he snapped a picture of it in the recipe book and sold it to a friend for $100. So, yeah, I mean, if you think that the things that are really important to your wife are only worth $100, you got a problem.